the world is a better place when you're living your purpose. And it's not just a cliche, it is a fact. There is only one version of every human being on earth. And we are so unique in our makeup that imagine how much of a loss it would be if we spent our time trying to be like someone else or be something else that someone else said we should be.
So tell me what you do at Thales.
So currently I'm a safety assurance manager and as well as an EDI network development lead at Thales.
Great. You have also described yourself as a scientist and an artist. So I'm interested in those things too.
I think that every human being is really multifaceted. So I am in equal measure a scientist and an artist. And whenever I say this, people think it's very interesting, but it's true. I harness my science side, which is where my career has been. But also outside of my workplace, I am a poet. I lead a choir. I'm a choral singer, soprano, and I just love photography. So I'm an amateur photographer as well. So I've really understood the importance of harnessing both sides of me to keep my full potential and to be able to create. And in STEM, we create a lot. So, so yes, that's why I describe myself both as a scientist and an artist as well.
And what are the most creative parts of your role working in tech?
That's a very good question. So, my role as a safety professional, safety engineering professional, it's very important that we make sure that the products that we produce are safe. And so creating is trying to find a solution to something that, to a product, for example, that would otherwise cause harm to people if it weren't designed in a very safe way, in a way that met the requirements of regulations. So making sure that we have those solutions in place, it's my opportunity to really think outside the box. I have to think about what could go wrong first, and then think about, okay, well, what if we design something this way, we put this in, that would bring a solution. That means that scenario would never happen. So I get a lot around creation. Yeah.
And do you think that provides you with a bit of an advantage against your perhaps not as creative employees?
I completely think so. Because I'm used to tapping into my creative side, my art side, I'm always thinking outside the box. Sometimes as engineers, we're very logic focused. 1 + 1 has to be 2. But sometimes you have to define the equation yourself. And so that means that the solution can be different. So one of the things that a great example I use is the fact that this shell that I've got in my hair as an accessory, actually, when I bought it, it was meant to be an anklet. And I converted it from an anklet, I converted it into a hair accessory. And it's done many things. It's become also a necklace as well. So
It's had many lives.
Exactly.
Shell.
It's got many lives. So I'm a creative, and that really is advantageous for me in my day-to-day work.
And the shell is a metaphor for you because you've also had many lives professionally. So you started off in engineering, is that correct? No, sorry, you didn't start off in engineering.
Yes, I started off in medical sciences.
Sciences, right.
Yes.
And you grew up in Nigeria, is that correct?
Very correct, yes, indeed.
And when did you come over to the UK?
So I moved over to the UK roughly about 18 years ago now. Yes. I was 2007. So I came to actually study engineering here in the UK after having had a career detour in Nigeria, and I eventually made the bold decision to step out of what my parents would have loved me to study and actually pursue my own dream and come here to do that. So yeah.
So talk to me about your career detour, as you call it, back in Nigeria.
Right, that's good. Growing up in Nigeria, my parents were lecturers at the time, so academics, and we grew up in a very university environment. There was this very strong gender career bias at the time, because if you were a child who was above average in terms of your academic performance, you would be encouraged to go into like professional courses like engineering, math, medical sciences. If you're female, you'd be encouraged to go into medical sciences, pharmacy, biochemistry, because they felt those were more nurturing for females. And then if you were male, engineering and accounting. But as a young child, I wanted to be an engineer, and my parents encouraged me diplomatically to go into engineering. I did that for 3 years, and I decided at the end that there's no point doing something that you're not passionate for. Life is about living your purpose. And after 3 years, I summoned up the courage and I told my parents that that was not for me. I wasn't excelling as well, which is quite important to state, because if you're not living your purpose, chances are you would not be at your full potential. So it was a big decision. My parents didn't quite agree, and my mum fell ill. But I, at that point, I'd made up my mind, and it was a bold step. I left everything I knew behind in Nigeria and came to the UK to start afresh. I had no aunties, no uncles, nothing, just me and myself coming to pursue a life here in the country. And I started off with chemical engineering again, and I did that, excelled, went ahead to do a master's in process business management, and then got my first job as a quality engineer. And as I say, the rest is history. So that was the very bold decision that I made, and it's been rewarding ever since.
Amazing. And I mean, how did that feel when you stepped on that plane and you realised, I've made this choice now, I'm committing to this, I'm heading to England to study something totally different?
It felt quite daunting, but it also felt like at that point I was backing myself, and I knew that I had one chance. I felt like I had one chance at life, and I was going to take it with everything that I had. And I think it was really good, because that was what made me, come here and really excel, even through challenges that I've faced. Yeah, so it was the decision to back myself. So I was willing to give up everything that my comforts and everything that I was used to, and just come and back myself and leave my purpose. Because something deep down told me that if I did, the world would be a better place with me leaving my purpose. And I mean, I like to think that I have made some contributions as well in engineering now that has kind of confirmed that intuition that I had at the time to back myself. So it was daunting but rewarding.
Yeah, and thank God you did. And I think you touched on something really interesting there, which is the pressure that a lot of young people feel, whether or not that's cultural or from their parents or from friends, or being forced to fit into a hole that they don't necessarily want to be in. Yeah. What advice would you have for any of our community that are currently feeling a little bit stuck like that?
Yes, there is a lot of pressure, societal pressure, economic pressure, biases and stuff that really does weigh on young people, even more so on women. So my advice, from my own experience, is that it's just what I said earlier. The world is a better place when you're living your purpose, and it's not just a cliche; it is a fact. There is only one version of every human being on earth. And we are so unique in our makeup that imagine how much of a loss it would be if we spent our time trying to be like someone else or be something else that someone else said we should be. Mm-hmm. That's one. The other advice is that no one knows you more than you know yourself. So our intuitions are there for a reason. And there's this quote that gets attributed to Albert Einstein that I quite like. It says that we're made, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here, but it says that we're kind of made of our logical mind and our intuitive mind. And the world has spent all its time focusing on the logic and forgetting the intuitive part. And it's so true. So people might see you and try to define who you are, but only you know exactly all the multifacets that make up who you truly are. And you have that power to tell that to the world. And once you're aligned with that, you will do great things. So that's my advice. If you believe that truly, nothing can truly stand in your way. No challenges can. So
that's amazing advice. And so if we speed forward to your first day at that university as a minority walking into an engineering classroom, was that a similar feeling of daunting, or were you excited?
it was both. I was both excited for what I believed I was going to achieve. But the reality of it was so many other things, like trying to fit in, coming and realizing that you are now going from a country where you were never a minority and coming to an environment where almost every aspect reminds you that you are a minority and you're slightly different. And so trying to then begin to build up the courage to know that that's not being different is not difference is not disadvantage. Many a time we forget that. So, and also of course the language barrier. So understanding, I spoke English completely well when I came, but the accent was completely different. And so hearing my lecturers was something that I made a point to be on the first row. I could never miss not being on the first row.
Where did you go to university?
I went to university at Aston University in Birmingham.
Oh no, the Birmingham accent as well.
So it was a very crash course.
I think we forget when you grow up in England how mental all the different accents
can
are.
be, yes.
And we only live like 2 or 3 hours away from each other, but we sound completely different.
Yes. That's I think it's really unique in that way that you've got different accents, and from the accents you can tell who people are. But yeah, so that was one of the things that I remember fondly now. But it was as I said, it was a mixture of nerves and a realization of my difference and maybe what that might lead to in the future. But yeah.
And do you think that strength of following your own intuition that you did pretty early on in your career at quite a young age, and being strong and set on, knowing yourself and the path that you want to forge, do you think that's helped you in your career later on, especially as you've moved into leadership and also helping other people in your cohort?
Yes, it's really helped me because as just like any other person, even though you feel confident most of the time, and I do, there are certain times where you come into a new environment, come into a new position at work, or even in a networking environment, and you feel, I'm lacking confidence. You feel imposter syndrome. So that has always been something that I have to default to, because I think my key message is that no matter where you find yourself in, you have to back yourself. You can wait for people to back you and to sing your praises. But the truth is, if your life and your career projection was all based on other people backing you and singing your praises, it would be a very slow progression.
Yeah, and also you're relying on other people.
And you're relying on other people.
Yeah.
Yes. So backing yourself is a strong asset and tool that any person can have. And that backing yourself is there's a difference between arrogant. It's not being arrogant about your capabilities, but it's about knowing that you are unique and you're capable, and if given the right environment, you're able to thrive. It's just about self-belief, really. So that definitely, I think, for young women who are trying to come into a very male-dominated industry, that's something that they need to have, because they would need to reassure themselves that they're competent. Because many women are very competent, but they always feel a strong lack of confidence.
And it's understanding, like you said earlier, that those differences can end up being superpowers, and they can actually help you progress faster than your peers, bring other perspectives. And you've touched on the fact that you do your poetry, and you're also a singer, and those other soft skills and life skills that you bring into your team will absolutely help you fly. It's not just about being a logical engineer. Exactly
that. And these soft skills that we gain them from outside the workplace as well. So it's not just within our roles. If you're a mother, if you're a choral singer in your church, if you're a leader in the church, if you're a volunteer outside. So all of these skills, we some of them we have naturally, some of them we acquire through experiences outside the workplace. And one thing that we women tend to do is compartmentalize our skills. We think, well, if I'm a mother, I'm very good at managing the house, taking care of the kids, cooking, and making sure everything's is working fine. But I don't have management skills. Actually, that is strong management skills. So it's about knowing that experiences gained outside the workplace are very transferable, and leadership is not just about a vertical leadership. It can be horizontal. So all these understandings help you to be able to harness your potential the best in your job interviews within the role itself. And this is where I believe that men have more advantage over women, because men are usually very confident. They usually believe they can do a lot of stuff, even when they haven't actually had the practical experience. And I don't know why this is, but for women, for sure, I know why it is. It's because we feel we need to prove ourselves all the time. We don't actually take that leap and trust our intuition and trust that we can actually do it. And of course, if you come to an industry where you are a minority, that then plays a part in making you have this imposter syndrome. So definitely backing yourself and understanding you can transfer skills are very important in a career in STEM, I think.
Absolutely. I saw a really brilliant LinkedIn post. I can't remember who it was, but a woman went on maternity leave and took a career break to bring up a young family. And instead of leaving that break on her LinkedIn, she put head of her second name household. And for those 3 years, she listed all of the transferable skills that she had bringing up 3 boys in a household that she could bring in to your technical team at the drop of a hat. And I just thought, that is so brilliant. I absolutely love that.
That is brilliant. I want to know who that lady is. I want to follow
I'm going to
her.
do that. Absolutely.
That is really brilliant. And that is so true. I mean, hats off to her for realizing that and using it. It is true.
Yes.
So I agree.
And you've spoken about backing yourself, but has there been anybody in your career that you feel like has really had your back and has helped you along your journey?
Yes, so there's been many people, too many to count, but that's a very important point. So as much as you back yourself, no man or woman is an island, and you definitely need mentors. You also need sponsors. So understanding that learning is a continuous process is very important. And so for me, when I came into the industry, I knew that I needed to learn. That was for sure. So as much as I had confidence, I knew I needed to learn. And to learn, I needed to align myself with leaders who looked like me, who, in terms of being female, for example, or being a minority, and who had actually got into the helm of their career in a way, so that I could learn from them. So there's so many people I can't really name one at this point, but that was very important for me, because you have to support yourself with people who tell you not just where your strengths are, but also where there's opportunity for you to learn. And it's not just also technical skills. It's also about learning how to build stakeholders, how to collaborate, also how to get a sponsor who speaks for you when you're not in the room. So these are the things that I focused on throughout my career, and that really helped me. But I think the best thing that I got from mentorship was the fact that mentorship taught me that aligning yourself with people who share your vision is very important. Many times what we focus on is we find the parts of our, the skills that we're not very good at. And we're always focusing on trying to build only those skills. and that will be the determinant of how successful we are. That is good. To learn about skills that things that you're not good at is very good. But what mentorship told me and taught me at a very early age was to really dig deep and identify the areas of myself and my skill set that really came naturally to me, and then try to build my career around that, because that is where I'll be able to give my full self whilst learning new skills. So that was valuable insight. And because this person that I had aligned as my mentor shared my vision, they also showed me how they did the same thing in their own career path. So surrounding yourself with people who have a similar vision to what you have is very good, because you're able to learn, see from their life experience, but also learn how they got there and what they did. So I think that's mentorship and sponsorship, having those are very valuable alongside backing yourself.
Both of those things.
Exactly.
And what's been your biggest professional challenge?
My biggest professional challenge till date has been to prove that I am quite a competent engineer and I deserve to be a leader. That's a very broad, because I have worked in 14, so for the last 14 years in about 5 different industries, or 4 industries. So I've worked in the oil and gas, I've worked in pharmaceutical, also medical devices, and now defense. So about 4. And in those industries, I've had to prove myself quite quickly. So I've come in with the right qualifications on my CV, but then I've come in and been one of in many teams. I go to boardroom meetings and there's 10 of us and I'm the only black female in the room. And many times, unconsciously, I find that because of my difference, there are biases that work against me. So having to prove that I deserve a table, a place on the table, has been my biggest challenge, and that's come in so many different ways.
And are they implicit biases or are they explicit? Are they sometimes felt or are they quite obvious?
That's a very good question, because it's both. For me, it's been both. In some areas, some teams and businesses, it's been unconscious biases. What was very interesting, that I was doing a leadership course recently, and they asked us to do a training, kind of a test. Basically, it's a Harvard education test that they get you to assess your biases, and so a bit of how biased you might naturally be, unconscious biases. And so I was very convinced that I would never be biased, towards, for example, gender career bias. I know that I wanted to be an engineer from a young age, so I knew that women should not be stereotyped in terms of their career choices. And so I went and did this gender career bias test, and I found out that I was actually something like 50% biased towards men being engineers. So
interesting.
I thought I'd be like,
as a female engineer.
That was a big eye opener. But it just goes to show that there are so many things then that are in my subconscious. I've picked up from the environment. I've picked up from what I've been told, that still sits somewhere in my subconscious, telling me that as a female, I should not be in engineering. And so I have seen that happen. And this is why when I do the work that I do in EDI, which is something I decided to do actively alongside my safety engineering career, because I felt quite passionate and I want to be the change that I want to see. When I don't come from a them against us point of view, because I realize that some of these biases just sit there. It's not necessary that we want to be biased. There's so many things that we take in that sometimes make us unconsciously biased.
Yeah, it's a total systemic issue, isn't it?
It's a very systemic issue, exactly. Yeah. And of course, there is also the very conscious biases that you do get comments, quips from people and behaviors that are very direct. It's interesting that I was having a conversation recently with someone who didn't know that I was a chartered engineer, and this person said to me, "Oh, they're much older in their career as well, progression." So they said to me, "Oh, I'm an engineer. I'm a chartered engineer." And then when I mentioned that I was also chartered, they instantly said, the next statement that came out from them, they said, "Oh well, I think they must have made the chartership process a lot easier now since my time," and that was very
Wow.
very telling of the kind of experiences that we have on a day-to-day basis. So so it's a mixture of both conscious and unconscious biases that you do face, and that's been my biggest challenge, is to overcome those, to still show my best within every team and company that I've worked in.
And if you were to do it all again, so if you were to start out and map your career path again, would you do anything differently?
Yes, I will back myself from day one. I will have believed the little girl who at 5 years old knew that she wanted to be an engineer, and I would have stood my ground, and not. Although I believe that no experience is a wasted experience, so having that detour into medical sciences helped me realize that there's no point doing something, taking up space in a place where you're not giving your best. So it helped me then make a determined decision to come into engineering. However, if I could do it all over again, I would have, backed myself from day one, and just gone ahead to pursue my dream from day one. And that's what I would like to encourage anyone out there to pursue their dreams, because they're achievable and attainable, and they make the world spin.
Ify, thank you so much for coming in. I've loved speaking with you. It's been so much fun.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. What you do here it's truly amazing, and it's very much needed and timely. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome.